Okay, so I was asked to make this a little bit hands-on, so maybe I will even sit so that I can type, and I'm also still recovering from a COVID episode, and yeah, if you don't mind. Okay, AAVSO. So this is an overview. So I'll give you some facts and figures about AAVSO and some hopefully a bit of a hands-on demo of our ecosystem, and a little to say about plans for the future, also touching on smart telescopes, and yeah, and then ask for your feedback on what you would like us to do to better support you. So this is our mission statement, International Nonprofit Organization of Variable Star Observers. Its mission is to enable anyone, anywhere to participate in scientific discovery through variable star astronomy. And there's a little bit of tension between American association and international, anywhere, everywhere, blah, blah. It's just history, and you just cannot get them to rename themselves, but it would be more appropriate. There's nothing specific American about this. Yeah, so we have 1,200 members. We have 800 active observers, and you don't have to be a member to submit observations. Our budget is about $1 million per year, and if you do the division, that doesn't mean that we charge that much of a member's fee. Main source of income is an endowment. So, but that is our budget, and it gives you an idea of what we can and what we cannot do. So it allows us to have this number of staff, and yeah, we have a database of currently 55 million observations, and also important, a curated database or star index, VSX, of 2.2 million known and suspected variable stars. Lately, there's much activity concerning spectroscopy and also exoplanet transit is relatively new. And since a long time, solar observations. So this is mainly sunspot counting, but also sudden ionospheric disturbances. We also have webinars, and we can reach thousands of people with that. Something we are very proud of. Also some series that is in Spanish. So let's do some hands-on demo. I want to do some of that with a concrete example. So my example will be T Corona Borealis, which is a cataclysmic variable it's relatively close, under 1 kiloparsec. It's a recurring nova. So it goes nova every 78-ish years. And when it does so, it goes from 10-ish magnitudes to 2-ish magnitudes, so like Polaris. And the last outbreak was in 1946. And if you do the math, exciting. So it's basically guaranteed that we around next year see something like that Astro-COLIBRI will hopefully inform us that something there has gone mightily transient. And so what would one want to do in that case after getting this alert? And I think other than, currently I think there's an AAVSO button that takes you to our main page, but I think a better idea actually after thinking about this would be to go to the variable star index. And I must have it somewhere here. So this is somewhat strange menu of the variable star index. So you could just go to search, and then you can either go by name, T Corona Borealis, and search, and then you find an object in the thing. And yeah, you could also you could also do a cone search in this database, and I guess that's something that is the better alternative to do from Astro-COLIBRI. I mean, you have a transient, you have an uncertainty region. I mean, you could just go here, and it's a bit hidden to give a position and no, and a radius, and then I have to search, and then hopefully, yeah, you find that close to your transient there is, this known variable star. I mean, finding any variable star near any transient would be interesting, I guess, to see whether they could be related. So there you get, the nice thing about this index is that you actually get a type of the variable. So, I mean, most surveys, they have a variability flag, and it tells you it's variable or not, which is kind of limited use, because, I mean, every source is variable if you look hard enough and long enough. But here you get the type, so it tells you that it actually has two types. It's an rotating ellipsoidal, and it's a recurring nova. And for the mode where it's an ellipsoid, there's even a period given and whatnot. And from there, you can basically go to all the other places in AAVSO that are interesting. So you could ask yourself, have there been any recent observations for this? I have to press go. By AAVSO observers, and you can see that today already it's today, right? There has been observations, and there are actually a lot of observations recently, and we will soon see why that is. So actually 171,000 observations in total by 1,700 observers. And from there you can generate a light curve, or you can go back to VSX. You can also from there go to see the light curve. That will take some time, I guess. I think I've done that before. To speed it up a bit. So this is actually all the data points that there are, and that goes back to 1800 something, even before AAVSO existed, before some archival data has been input there. And there you see the outbreak in 1946, and the one before that. That makes us a bit confident that we will see an outbreak soon. Also, there is a characteristic pre-outbreak dip in the magnitude, which you can see here in the light curve. And if you look close, you can see that in the light curve now. So looks good. Yeah. And you can, yeah, there are a lot of links here that yet you can click. So I think this would be a good landing page for going from Astro-COLIBRI instead of the our homepage. So let me go back to.
To go directly to the light curve page.
Yeah.
You don't know the exact name of conventions in AAVSO, or for most cases that just failed.
Yeah.
Maybe the concept is more.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the way to go, because if let me slideshow. Let me go back to the, because the thing is, and that is important to note, if an entry is not in VSX, you cannot have you will not find a light curve, because you cannot enter an observation into the AAVSO database unless there is an object in VSX. So, which is, yeah, has some drawbacks. This policy, but that's how it is. So doing a cone search in VSX first, I think that would be a good idea. I mean, even if there are no data points, you still get the information that there are some variables in that interesting field. So VSX has two homes. We host it in AAVSO, where that's the most current copy. But also around every month, it's exported to CDS. So there's a Vizier catalog for it, and it's not. I think it's not all the data, but you can do the cone search with your established API Python code to do CDS catalog searches. Yeah, it's just not the most recent copy. That's the thing to keep in mind. Yeah, just done that. So that's a page from where you can go to and find, if you want to observe this yourself, you can generate finder charts from there and light curves and see recent observations. Now, yeah, of course, there's also an API for that. This is XML based, so yeah, that you can use to use cone searches. I have to look at it in detail, just interesting. So now for transients, it's if it's actually a new transient, a supernova or whatnot, then if you go there, it will not be in VSX because you just discovered it. And in order to enable people to submit observations, you may want to add it to VSX. And it's a curated process. So you make a submission using, you need to register with us so that as a spam protection. And then there's this visit dialog that has an intimidating 12 steps, but it's just one data item at a time. So that takes you through the process of adding an entry to VSX. And after that, it's some moderators get a message and they look at it and make sure that it makes sense. And if it makes sense, then they submit it, and then it's available in VSX, and everybody can submit observations. Yeah, so there's the lengthy manual in here, but yeah, you can always ask for help, and people will help you getting stuff in quickly into VSX if you haven't done this before. Yeah, the other after something is in VSX, you can submit photometric data or spectra, and that is a so-called AAVSO International Database, IAID. And probably for US astronomers, it's more important how to get data out of there instead of putting data into there. That's the amateurs. So there are many ways to get data out there. You can do bulk downloads for specific targets. There's a web-based query form. There's also there's a little software written in Java, distributed by the AAVSO, and yeah, there you can import the data and apply some filters when you want to exclude some observers or exclude some or include filters. So yeah. You might, if you want to connect to this database, you might find the source code of this instructive. I mean, just have to be a little bit careful because this source code, let me go back. where did I mention this? So this is under a JPL-like license, so you can look, but you better not copy and paste it to your software unless you want to also make it public. Okay, so then it's showtime for AAVSO observers, and they observe, and while they observe, for interesting transient, they should then spread the news, and they can observe using their own telescopes or iTelescope. We have many observers, especially you going after gamma ray burst afterglows, that jump on iTelescope and try to reserve one and observe with that. We also have some AAVSO operated telescopes that like iTelescope uses, but we have to be an AAVSO member to do that, use that. And then AAVSO observers will reduce the data on their own and then report the reduced data to AID and then continue to do that. So for AAVSO, we're not currently submitting images. We are accepting reduced photometry data. And the way that amateurs do that is either the pedestrian way, you enter this data point by data point into a web form, but there's also a standard data format understood by many photometry reduction software that generates it for you, and then you can upload this as bulk submission. Okay, so yeah, some practical hints maybe for your Skyathon. The documentation about the APIs for all these sets is a bit like all over the place because it's historically grown over decades, basically. But there's one forum thread that you should then look at, and yeah, there's a list of where you can find all the API documentation for the resources that matter. And yeah, that's what I already mentioned. So nothing wrong with looking at the source code of the VSTARS software if you want to see how to extract observations from our database. Just mind the license. Yeah, it even has some nice period finding software in there and whatnot. So, but I mean, AAVSO is not just a platform to exchange data, but also sometimes you want to get in contact with the observers. And so basically you can offer, there are several modes of communication. So let's say broadcast, you can address the entire AAVSO community by posting and proposing an observation campaign or an alert, and that will then reach all the AAVSO observers. Now, if you want to target a little bit more the experts in some fields of observing for a certain kind of target, then the AAVSO is the observers are encouraged to join observing sections, and I will show you in a minute a list of our observing sections. But you can also use the tools to reach individual observers. So, like if you look at the light curve for T Corona Borealis, you will see that lately somebody has added data with ultraviolet filter. So maybe you want to talk to that guy and think, do you plan to continue that? I mean, how do you do that? You think the scatter is real, or is that error? And then you can, every observer has a unique observer code, and then you can use that observer code to look up the person in the on the web page after you've registered for spam protection. And then you can use a contact form to get in contact with this individual observer, which I think can be very helpful. For alerts and campaigns, I think most of our campaigns are in one of two, fall into one of two categories. There's like tactical alerts where somebody asks for data to be done in parallel with some professional observations, like from HST or from something in a completely different part of the spectrum, either to have the optical counter part of observation, so just to see whether something funny was going on in the optical while you are doing your X-ray observations, or also for purely technical reasons, because I think HST has a policy that within the last 24 hours there's a decision point, when you're observing something that could be outbursting, then you have to prove to the Hubble operators that at the moment currently the thing is not in outburst, because I mean it would be too bright and would be a waste of telescope time, and it maybe even throws some instruments into some mode that needs recovering. So amateurs are perfectly willing to do that service and check that something is not in outbreak in preparation of say HST observations. So for T Corona Borealis, because this is such a considerate star, I mean, can a star be any more astronomer friendly than saying, hey, I will go into once every 78-year outbreak soon by making a dip? So there's a super campaign which was announced even with a webinar. So there were like 200 people listening in and listening to a PI explaining why they should have a look at T Corona Borealis and at what filters and with what cadence and whatnot, so that we catch the next outbreak rapidly after it happens, and that we see what happens before the actual nova happens. So this is like a strategic thing where you can ask, please monitor the star for the next whatever, half year, 1 year, something that I guess some professional observatories would find hard to put into their schedules. Like for T Corona Borealis, we know in advance that we want to observe it for a more spontaneous transient. Like we got this alert for the supernova in M101. So the discovery was at May 19.7, and at May 22, there was a campaign announced that we should monitor that. So yeah, it first has to be put into VSX. So unfortunately, I think this is about like the what it usually takes to launch a campaign. It's a bit slow, but yeah, maybe I'll skip that. You can all, if there's something that is absolutely urgent, you can also make a posting to this time-sensitive alerts forum at AAVSO, and then people will start observing immediately. They might not be able to submit their data, but I mean, it's more important that they start observing and then have it on their hard disks, and then they can reduce it later and submit the thing. But the important thing is to get the news out. And people can push the subscribe button here, and then they will get an email whenever someone writes to this forum. And you can also subscribe to threads so that you get an email once there are new postings to, say, this T Corona Borealis thread. Plans for the future, smart telescopes. We would like to embrace smart telescopes, which I'm totally thrilled that we will have someone from Unistellar here. Now, in the interest of science, I will very quickly, briefly mention that there are some other vendors as well. So I can think of 4. And with an aperture ranging for popular models from like 120-ish millimeters to down to 24 millimeters. And I'm not sure that is useful. We are currently testing that. But like 50 millimeters, we know it's useful. That's what we used to have from DSLR photometry, and the sensors are similar. So that's in the price range between 400 and 4,000 and 400 euros. So very affordable, and they must have sold thousands of these lately. There was an offer for $500 from one of those companies lately, and you can see on a social media map where they are in your, and that must have sold thousands of units. So interesting. Yeah, we are of course open for new campaigns and ideas how to support you, and please talk to us for very strategic things. You can talk to our director/CEO, which currently is Brian Kloppenburg, and yeah, I think that is basically all. Thank you.